Hey, hey, Tiny Pies, part two. This is the how-to version. So, how do you make a teeny tiny pie? Basically the same way you make a regular size pie. These are my little pie tins. I got them through Amazon for a special order. And yeah, they look a lot like, the regular old pie tins that you buy at the store, right? So these are 4 inch across the top and about 3.5 inch across the bottom. And about an inch deep. So that's what I'm working with here. And so to make a tiny pie, I'm going to use a tiny amount of dough. This, because I already know from having done the first dozen that I made earlier, I know that I need a piece of dough that's going to go across the bottom, up the sides, across the top, over the rim here, without a huge overhang. So that for me is 45 grams, which is about an ounce and a half. And that's all I need to make that with about an eighth of an inch to a sixth of an inch thickness on my dough. So what I'm going to use, I'm going to use a little bit of table flour, a light amount. You don't need a whole heck of a lot. A little bit on top to make it non-stick. I'm going to use my wooden dowel, which is one of my absolute favorite things on the planet. It cost me like $3 in Chinatown, and I love it so much. I have a few of them. They're fantastic when you don't want to bust out the rolling pin, and it does give you a whole lot of, well, a lot of control over where that dough is going to go. So I'm going to roll out my dough, starting in the middle. I'm going to squish forward, start in the middle, go back away from me, turn it, and I'm just going to keep on rotating it. Dough's got a little bit of a dry spot there. Not going to worry too much about it. Flip it over. Keep on rolling. And guess what? This is just how you do when you are making a regular size pie dough, right? So all I did was I just rotated it a little bit and rolled it again. Rotated it, rolled again. Rotated it, rolled again, just until I have, about the right thickness, about the right size. This is where I test it. Is it going to go? Nope, not big enough yet. So then, this is why we always want to work with cold pie dough also, so that we can adjust as we go without it getting too mushy. Well, that should do it. All right, now, oh, look at that. Now it's going to fit. So I'm going to start by pressing down in the center and then adjusting it by tucking it into this corner here. I don't want to create a weak spot in my dough by having this big, large bubble here that's, just going to grow into it. That's going to make for a weaker piece of dough right there. So I'm going to just keep squishing it across the side here, kind of adhering it to it, and then I'm going to go across the edge, across the rim here. Oh, look at that. That's a lined pie dough tin with pie dough. And pie dough. And so I've got a little bit of an overhang. I don't want a whole lot of one because I don't want this pie to be all about the crust. I don't want this huge amount of crust that I have to kind of, fiddle with later. So now I'm going to put this on pause. I'm going to fill this thing up, and then I'm going to show you how to top it. Woo! Okay, so paused, and now here I am back again. Okay. It's filled, with a little bit of a dome on top, you can see, but not much of one. Still has the juices in there, a little dot of butter, because that's what makes it so yummy. And there's my top piece of dough. This is also about an ounce and a half, trimmed a little bit of any excess. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to pop this right on top, seal it up, just by pinching it together. You don't have to be this isn't pro wrestling. You don't have to get in on there and just nice and gentle. There you go. And you see there's a little bit of an overhang. We want to address that. That's going to make us a really nice crust. So what I do, and there are cajillions of ways of doing this, but this is my way, is I'm going to pick up both of them and I'm going to roll it like that. Did you see that? Let's see if I can do this one-handed. So they're pinched together. I'm going to pick them both up. I'm going to roll them and set them onto the rim like that. Now, here's what that looks like. IRL. I'm just going to pick them up, roll them, and set them onto the rim. Is it going to look perfect right away? No. I'm going to have a little bit more in some areas, a little less in others. That's going to be okay. Now, if at some point you're at this around this point where your dough's starting to get a little bit on the warm side, starts feeling a little melty, a little slick, a little too soft, this is where you put it right back into the freezer, which is what I'm going to do. Okay, so this is about 5 minutes in the freezer. And although I could bake this off just like this, there's a couple of things that are missing. First, we want to put a little frill on that edge. We want to fancy her up a little bit, make her look pretty. So that's what I'm going to show you now. And also, we need a little bit of ventilation in the top here, just to, get all that steam that's gonna build up. Give it a little avenue to get out. If you don't put a ventilation hole in either a little guy like this or a regular size, like 9-inch pie, chances are that steam's going to build up a bit, and it's going to cause some blowouts, and that's going to be pretty much anywhere where the weakest part of your dough is. And guess where that is? Boop, boop, right on the edge there. So you want to make sure that you're well sealed on the edge, not just for looks, but also because you don't want any blowouts of juices coming out, because that's messy and in some cases smoky. So we don't want that. So first things first, I'm going to make a little ventilation hole, and you can do this by just taking your knife and boop, boop, right in the center there. You want to make sure you go all the way through the dough. So what I'm going to do is, I like circles, so I'm just going to make a little circular one with a plain tip piping tip. And I'm just going to boop, 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 like that. There it goes. And put that butter back in. There you go. There's the little ventilation right there. Okay, so there are a cajillion ways of putting a nice little edge on your pie. What I'm going to do is I'm going to basically just take my fingers like this, and I'm just going to do this. Around and around and around until I've got a nice little edge going. Now, if your dough's a little bit on the warm side, this is going to make it for a pretty sticky situation, so throw it in the freezer. If you kept it too long in the freezer, like I just did, then you're going to wait for a few minutes and let this get a little bit more pliable. Yep, this is this is me being distracted on a Sunday. What can I tell you? Hold on. Okay, so I've started. So here's what I'm going to do. Boop, boop, like that, right? So I'm going to just put my fingers like that. And then I'm going to put my thumb in that one groove there and do that. I'm just going to go around. Now, when you guys are doing this, I would hope that you would try something like this instead of just like pressing a fork in. Because, yeah, it's legit, but, it's not upping your technique at all just to stick that fork in there and make the little fork tying thing. I want to see you guys do this stuff. Because it's harder and worth it. All right, so you just keep going around, keep going around. So my dough is now pliable, but still good and cold. That way it's not going to melt all over my fingers as I'm going. And ta-da! There you go. Now here's a trick for the wise. Your dough should not hang over the rim very much. Like this part right here is going to give me a little bit of trouble later as it's baking, so I'm going to just tuck that back on. It needs to be pretty level with the rim. So if it's not, just kind of, arrange it so that it is. And you want to make sure that, okay, see, it's standing pretty straight up. It's not slanting off of the pie tin. If it's slanting like that, it's going to fall that way. It's going to get top heavy as this dough starts to melt. So when you're in the oven, before you get into the oven, make sure that your pie crust is kind of sitting straight up and down on that rim. If it's not, just arrange it so it's not. And then give it about 5 minutes of chill time in the fridge, just to get that butter good and cold. When it's really nice and cold, egg washed, ready to go, you don't have to do anything with it. You can just take it straight out of the fridge after it's hardened back up a little bit, pop it into that nice hot oven, and it's going to bake much nicer that way. If it's really soft going into the oven, it's just going to kind of give up the ghost, so to speak. It's just gonna kind of, and it's not gonna give you that nice flaky layer that you're shooting for. So yeah, I should probably just like let you go right there since it's been 10 minutes. Happy pie baking, guys. This is gonna be so good. Your house is gonna smell amazing, and you're gonna have like a whole ton of pie this week in your home. And lucky you. I just got these little guys, although they are cuter. This is about the cutest little thing I've seen all week besides my own kids. So, yeah, there you go. Yeah, got any questions, comments, concerns? By all means, email me, text me, call me up, let me know what's what, and we'll talk about it. All right, bye!